Melissa Carson, alias. She had 4 children. My oldest sister is named Lorraine, myself, Melissa, my brother Stephen, and my little sister Allison.
What was your mother's name?
Phyllis Obrien Carson. She was born in Stephenville, Newfoundland, Canada, February 12th, 1934, I think. And she has several siblings. There's Bridget, there's Ella, there's Marie, there's Catherine, there's Pat, there's Larry, Junior, Wilfred, I might have said. There's several siblings she has, and many of them has passed. My grandmother's name is Regina O'Brien, her mother. My grandfather's name is Thomas O'Brien, her father. They've long passed. My mom came here to the States, I think, probably back in the late 50s at first, to get married to my dad. March 2nd, I think it was, they got married. And she had my sister as her firstborn there in Newfoundland. And back in the early 60s, myself and my mom went back to Newfoundland to pick her up. In the meantime, I found out when I was there that, to meeting all my cousins and family there at the time, that my mom was well liked. She was caring, she babysat a lot her younger siblings and children outside the family. They live right by the ocean. They live on 7 O'Brien Drive there in Newfoundland, Stephenville. So it was very close, very tiny, remote little town on the island. Her friends are still alive. I communicate with one of them on Facebook. My mom was very petite, very assured of herself, very independent, compassionate. You know, I was between birth to 8. That's the memories I do have. And then I remember taking the bus when we lived in Stockton, and we take the bus and we go into all the thrift stores downtown Stockton. My great aunt lived on Waterloo Road at the time, and we go visit her. She was learning how to drive a little bit when we lived in French Camp. I remember that. We had a Comet, a little station wagon Comet. She'd drive around in. And my mom used to walk me to down to the little grammar school there on Waterloo Road. And then she allowed me to start walking by myself at the time. This is about probably in kindergarten, first grade. Maybe 65, 66. 1968, I think we moved to French Camp. And we had a little farm there. We had a bunch of cows and chickens and horses, and she loved it. I remember going out there feeding the animals with her, the ducks, making sure the water was in the pond for the ducks. And 7 years old, and I was laying in bed one morning, and she's yelling at me, "Cindy, get up for school, get up for school." Well, I couldn't get up. I couldn't just not get up. And she ran in the room because I was waving my arms around. She goes, "Why aren't you getting up? Why aren't you getting up?" Well, after she looked at me, my face was swollen, and I had what they call Stephen Johnson syndrome disease, and it scared her. And she called my father at the time saying, "I'm taking her into ER at St. Joseph's," and she was there at the bedside for a long time. And then I came home, and everything was okay. She had some friends there in town. Going back to Newfoundland, I remember going back, I said probably 69, 68, 60 again, that time frame. We went back to Newfoundland to pick up my sister, brought her back out to the States. She was about 10 years old, 10, 11 years old. And that was the first time meeting her. Her name's Lorraine. And she had this deep Canadian Newfie accent. I thought it was funny at the time. And my mom made sure she put all 4 of us together, and she treated us all the same. And she had the baby, which was Allison. She was less than 2 years old, can't remember at the time. My mom was, like I said, very petite. I say about 100 pounds, 5'1", 5'2", but yet she had disposition about her that everything was tidy, and she got us to school, all four of us, well, three of us getting ready for school in the morning, and she was involved with PTA there at French Kent School at the time. She was known around the community sometimes about different functions she'd go to. My dad, he worked for DeSalvo Trucking at the time. Edward Harmon Carson. He was born in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. My dad was in the Air Force, and he was stationed up in Greenland for a while. Then he was stationed down in Stephenville, Newfoundland Air Force Base. They called it Harmon Air Force Base. And he had been there a couple of years, and then there was like little clubs on the base that the local people used to go to attend and stuff. And he met my mom there. And I've got letters I found, though Dad was writing his mother here in the States, and it was very cute because, no, not cute, it was very charming how he courted her. But he fell in love with her. He knew that this was the woman. And then how the Canadians, my family at the time, was, welcomed him into family. To be marrying a Catholic, you would have to attend all these different courses. And he succeeded, he did it, even at the same time being active duty there on the base as an Air Force person. He brought her over here and married her here in the States. Down in, I think in Whittier, California, they got married. My aunt and uncle were their witnesses per se at the time. I started, I think, in third or fourth grade in French camp. Probably in 66, 65, 66, 67. Yeah. Maybe, maybe 67, 68, I started school out there. And my brother was in kindergarten. My sister wasn't going yet. She was too young still. I ended up going all the way to 8th grade to 75 there at French camp, and then went on to East Union. And then at the time, I would go my freshman year there, and then we moved to Rohnert Park, California. For the situation at the time that was happening, we had to, us children had to move. We had moved away from French camp probably 1974, I graduated in 75, so it had to be after that, 75, 76. We moved away for a while. My mom, she was murdered in 1970 out of French camp, and at the time of those few years after that, we were taking all three children. My half-sister had moved back to Newfoundland. All three of us had moved in with my grandmother and other family members for a few years. So that was a long process right there when she went missing. And then I was just telling my friend that she asked me who told me about her, about her death. I said it was my aunt, my dad's sister, the one that lived in Rancho Cordova. I remember her. To that day, I was laying in bed for some reason. It was like the end of the afternoon. I'm 7, 8 years old. I'm playing all day. Noticing my mom was missing. Where's she at? Nobody was saying nothing. Well, I remember her coming into the room one night, and she just says, "Cindy, honey, Mom was going to heaven." Not knowing why, not knowing who, nothing, just gone to heaven.
You hadn't been home for a couple of days or a while, or what?
Yeah, she had not been home, I say about 20 days, 4 weeks, 3 weeks. She had been gone. She had been gone. And I'm asking, nobody's telling me why she's gone, where she's at. what happened to her, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. So then my aunt told me that she was gone to heaven. I didn't understand that still.
That was your aunt.
And I just remember all my family, my dad's side of the family, being there. Cousins coming out to French camp, out to the house, and they would come and go, come and go. And
During this period when your mother was
missing, and then after the fact, the funeral and stuff, I remember them all being there. I remember sitting in my cousin's car, I think, to take me away from the TV at the time, because I think there was something that came on TV. Yeah, and I was sitting in cousin's car, and they detoured me, get me to listen to music or talk in the car, but I didn't know still yet. And all those years after the fact that she did, she died, not knowing, we were all separated. My brother and I lived with my grandmother, my sister lived with my aunt for all these few years, and then we all moved. My dad would come and get us like on the weekends, come back to Stockton. We would stay in motels all the time, because he had given up the house after 75 at the time. No, he couldn't have given up the house, because in 75 I graduated from French camp school there.
Okay, so this happened in 70. Do you remember the date when this happened?
She went missing, I'm pretty sure, November 24th, 1970, and she was found, October 24th she went missing, and she was found November 21st, 1970. And I'm sure at the time, I'm in school at the time, catching the bus in front of the house there on Waters Road, East French Camp. Off not East French Camp, but on Waters Road, 420 East Waters Road. There was two dwellings on the property there, and a big cyclone fence, and I'm sure she was still missing in that time frame, because it was Halloween. End of October is Halloween. I can't recall if we went Halloween, that night or not. That is not there. Can't remember that. I remember just family coming in and out. Her telling me Mom's gone to heaven. Maybe after the fact, after the 20th. But it took them a few weeks, evidently, to identify her. For them to come to the home and tell my father that she had been located or something.
This would have been like sheriff or something?
A sheriff or something come down into the home. Yeah. And then at the time back then, you couldn't have a single father taking care of children, especially young girls going through puberty and all that. So that's why instead of us going to foster care, the family took us in at the time. And that was very hard, because we were separated. Going through this, I'm the oldest, I'm worrying about the other two. The other one went back to Newfoundland, because that wasn't her father. And my family up there was, at the time, worried for all of us. They didn't know what happened to their aunt, to her sister, their, aunt, their daughter, nothing. And I had one of my aunts here, one of my mom's sister was still living here. And she ended up moving back to Newfoundland also at the time. And she was always concerned about us kids, about what's going to happen, and I don't have a clue.
So that aunt was living here when all this happened?
Yeah, was my mom's sister. And her name is, they call her Mary, but yeah, her real name's Ella. Ella, E-L-L-A.
She was here when all that happened?
Ella Hoops, Hoops.
Okay. Was she older than your mom?
I think they're about the same generation. I think they're maybe 2 or 3 years apart. She's also had passed by now. And she had 3 children that were very close, her cousins there also, Michael, Dale, and Julie. We grew up with them when they were here for a while. I remember going to Texas with my mom and dad, all the way to El Paso, picking them up, moving them back up here to Stockton. They live off of some apartments way back in late 60s on Wilson Way, on the other side about 99, so upstairs apartments back then.
Did you sense that she had been gone a long time?
Yeah. It's just, like I said, me as an adult, younger person, when I found out the actual cause that she was murdered, was when I graduated from high school in '79. I was 18 years old.
Oh, wait a minute. So they tell you at 8 or 9 years of age, after 20 days or so of having been missing,
She just went to heaven.
that they found her and she'd gone to heaven, but no one explained to you what had happened.
No, never explained to me.
Until you graduated from high school.
High school. So all those years I was growing up, my father wouldn't talk about it to us. It was something that he would not think it would hurt us. I had never pursued anything, figuring I'm the child, I'm the kid. I was going through my own growing up.
Tell me about how you dealt with that. I mean, how...
At the time, like I said, it was my around about the 18th birthday. And it's so uncanny. My birthday is February 11th, and my mom's is February 12th. And I think it was like right after that time period that I went downtown. At the time, the coroner's office was down in the basement in downtown Stockton at the time. And I wanted to talk to a Sergeant Jones, Detective Jones.
Now, this was when?
1979.
So you were out of
High school, just getting out of high school. I was 18. I told my dad what I was going to do, and per se, you know, he didn't say nothing really. I don't think he knew how to say what not to say or don't do or anything like that, right? So I did. Mr. Jones, Detective Sergeant Jones, was still working there. He pulled me aside. He brought out the first thing he allowed me to read, which I didn't get very much through with it, was the coroner's autopsy report.
Oh, did you perform an autopsy then?
Back then, the autopsy report. Well, whatever the coroner's report,
Right.
not autopsy, the coroner's report.
Oh, okay.
The
So
coroner's
they may or may not have conducted an autopsy.
Well, there's nothing conclusive except for decomposition, undetermined decomposition was the final cause of death. Undetermined severe decomposition. And when I was reading this, I read like the first paragraph and okay, this is like, okay, I know where that's at. That's by the county hospital. These roads. Remember now, I'm 18 years old. I'm in Manteca now. I'm living not in French Camp. We're living in Manteca. And I'm still young. Still, my mind is still young. What am I going to do with my life? Then I come down here.
What prompted you to...
I just wanted to know.
Is this something that just happened?
My dad, through my high school years, he was very protective, very...
Protective or sheltering?
Both, probably sheltering. You know, I didn't date. Didn't do that. Hung out with a couple of girlfriends up at different times. I was having to come home from high school and take care of brother and sister. Okay, at the time. But then
So this was always in the back of your mind?
Always back of my mind, what happened?
Keep wondering? Or?
Yeah, why, you know, what happened to her? Why didn't nobody tell me? And then until I read this, and then I get to the second paragraph that, you know, where she was located, how her body was found. You know, even detectives now, they can't really tell me if she was raped. There's speculation she could have been because her pants were taken off. But at the time of reading that coroner's report, I did get through it. I give it back to him, I threw it back to him. And at the time he had given me her gold band, her wedding band that was inside the case. And he had given me her wallets, her little tiny picture wallets.
None of those items were recovered? They were still there?
They were
After
still
all that
there.
time?
In 1979, they were still there. I have now the little wallet in a picture, little plastic things you can put pictures in, but not the purse. I have the ring that even in the autopsy report says, you know, she had a gold band on her hand. He had given me that. He had given me the little wallet things. That was it. That's all that Sergeant Jones at the time had given me. And, you know, he kind of put me aside and told me that, you know, she was murdered.
Well, I find that interesting that the autopsy, or lack of thereof, or whatever, that the cause of death was decomposition, but yet he was saying that she had been murdered. What?
That's the speculation. That was
Well, speculation,
speculation because of the way her body was found. Her top was on, her brassiere was on, but the capri she had on was turned inside out and thrown. So one would think that, okay, this sounds like something that may have got out of hand. Someone got hurt, pushed out, rape. Unwanted sex, per se. And she was such a petite person. It may have got out of hand and it threw her out. There are so many scenarios you come up with, so many speculations you can come up with, but I got the autopsy report now. To this day, I still have it. I got it from that day. He gave me a copy of it. And I read it once in a great while. Because it's pretty awesome. It's pretty in detail. It's pretty intense.
Any broken bones or any?
No broken bones, no gun wounds, no bruising, what they can find.
Contusion, you're right.
Yeah, nothing to where it was a harsh.
Right, in other words, no stabbing, no blows to the head?
No, nothing like that. Nothing. No.
So asphyxiated, perhaps?
Yeah, strangulation probably because of there was no. It was so undetermined her decomposition because she had been missing for almost 3 weeks there, and the weather conditions at the time were pretty harsh. End of October, November.
Winter, yeah.
Yeah. And in the area where she was found, it was very remote. Weeds were very high.
They have coyotes up there as well.
And the weeds were pretty high. It was a faith of luck, I think, that day when those two pheasant hunters found her.
So tell me what you know about how she was found.
I only have been told that two pheasant hunters had been out there that day, that afternoon, getting their Thanksgiving dinners or whatever, I don't know.
Right.
They came across her body and they ran and told the residents, the people that was living in the area right there, that there was a body that they needed to call the sheriffs. And the way they found her was like if she was throwing in a gully, in part of a gully, in a frog leg position. And when they picked up her body, they had to make like a makeshift board to put underneath her in order to save her body, what was left. It was pretty gruesome. Something to come across, for them, the two pheasant hunters at the time, I'm sure it was, thinking they're going to get pheasants and they come across this. And that was 70, right?
Still had her ring.
And in 79, yeah, she still had her wedding band on her.
So it wasn't...
No, it wasn't robbery. No, because her, the time, she didn't have money. Again, I'm sure there was nothing money found within her belongings.
It was a personal issue then.
I don't know. It's just, there was no sense of robbery. I'm speculating it was just something that got overwhelmed and not overwhelmed, how do I say this? Something happened, it was too aggressive and she was petite and an accident maybe turned it into more than an accident. And that's my speculation. I don't know, it's my opinion, but there's been a lot of opinions and since different detectives over the years have come up. They don't tell me, kind of like innuendos. They don't think it's who, they don't think it's him or her, or something. It's just, I don't know if it's going to be solved. I pray. I got a job for a little while. I'm trying to, you would think one would go totally the opposite. I knew that I still had structure. I knew that my dad still needed me and my brother and sister. Even though I don't know if I came home and went off on him, I don't know what I did. I don't know. I think when I read that, it just took me to somewhere else my life wasn't direct anymore, you know. I still had focus, but I couldn't let it go. You know, I went back to back east for a while to visit my other aunt, my dad's other sister, and he supported that because I think he was wanting me to get away from the environment. So I went back to North Carolina, and I stayed a little while. That was in '79 for a while, and then I went back to Newfoundland to visit my mom's side of the family. And that was an experiment because I had not seen them since I was like 6, 7 years old. And when I went back there to go pick up my sister with my mom. And here I am, a young adult now, I'm 18, 19 years old, and I go meet them again. In '79, yeah. And I see my grandmother and a bunch of aunts. My uncle, no, he wasn't alive, no. Grandfather at the time was not alive, but the aunts and cousins and grandmother was, and she took me in. She took me in from what first moment, and I don't, like my other aunt that lived here at the time, she had moved back to Newfoundland, and I don't remember the relationship her and I had. Dad, I can't go there. I don't know the blank. I know she just said, "You don't look like the O'Briens. You don't look like your mother." I said, "No, I'm 18 years old."
When did that statement happen?
Oh, when I was 18, when I went back to visit them. That was my mom's
So there may
sister.
have been some defensive animosity built up over a period of time.
Over a period of time, and here I come. One of Phyllis's children's coming. Everybody treated me with respect, except for that one moment that she said that, that she had her feelings, she had her doubts and things like that about
and,
us.
and it's understandable. You gotta remember that was her sister.
That's her sister.
And people say things that they don't really mean. They say them without realizing how deep those words
How
were.
much they hang on.
Yeah. And she may not have meant it that way. She may have meant it, in a different fashion, but she still harbors that.
Yeah, she harbored for many years, and I think she had passed about 2-3 years ago, and I didn't reconnect with her since that time.
So you lost not only your mom, but your aunt also.
I lost that relationship with her also at the time when I went back there in
That's very
'79.
important. That's very important. Yeah.
And when I went back there in '79, like I said, I had many uncles, other aunts and cousins that my grandmother, that's who I really wanted to build up because I didn't know her. Where were they all these years? From 1970 to '79, where were they? Why didn't they come visit us? Why wasn't there? So I came back in probably early 80s, after being gone almost a year, visiting them and staying with my aunt back there for a while, and then came back and we got a job at Loris Cutters for a while. Then at the time, different places. It was probably about 81, 82. I took a civil service test and got a job with the government at the time. No, I started at Rough and Ready Island.
In Stockton. Right.
Yeah, Rough and Ready for the Navy base out there. And then after that, over to Sharp Army Depot, and then after that, over to Tracy Defense. Been there since. About 2 years ago, I went back to Newfoundland. Now, think about this. This is almost 30 years since I've been there. And because all these years, I think when I turned 30, let me go back. When I turned 32, I went back again to the sheriff's office. This time they were out here in French Camp. I and my friend at the time went back out there just to reread it. From 18 to 32, that's many years of letting it go, but lingering in. Mm-hmm. And I got to read, but I don't remember. That's what bothers me at times, that I don't remember reading the sheriff's report. I remember some of it, but the names I recognized, that my dad was.
So you read this when you were 18,
I read the coroner's report at 18.
Okay, but not the sheriff's
Not the
report.
sheriff's report.
The investigation.
Right, part of it.
So now you're 32,
I'm 32, yeah.
and you're reading the coroner's report again, and now the sheriff's report?
At the time, not the coroner's report, because I already have a copy of that.
Okay.
I'm 32 years old, because when I did that, is that the same time, that's how old she was when she went missing and was found and murdered. So when I was 32, I read it. And there was, like I said, a lot of familiar names that I didn't know. My dad was questioned. People weren't questioned that they should have been questioned. And when he died in 92 of leukemia, you know, my brother and sister, we all put our monies together, because there was he was a truck driver all these years, so there was, from the Teamsters Union, there was a lump sum, so we purchased a headstone for my mom at the time, because she never did. It was just a marker out there in French camp, so we purchased that.
Did you say why you never...
We never, no. He just didn't talk about it. Even like when he was passing, I went in there, he passed July 22nd, 1992 at 6 o'clock in the morning. And prior to that, when he came home to pass, even when he was up there at Fort Miley at the VA hospital in San Francisco, I'd go up there, come home, get Corey ready. Even though she's just, 2 or 3 years old, she's petite. I pack her up.
Corey's your daughter.
Corey's my daughter. And my son, Michael, he was about 8 years old himself when my dad died. And, but prior for him coming home, I'd pack the kids up and go up to Fort Miley, and I'd talk to Dad. With both of them there, and I'm, Dad, tell me what happened. I need to know. Let it go, Cindy. Just let it go. It's gonna hurt. It hurt. Just let it go. Then when he came home, once again, I asked him. I said, "Don't take this with you. Don't take it with you, Dad. Please tell me what happened." And he still didn't divulge anything. So I just believe a lot of people went to wherever they went after they left this world, knew something. Maybe him, his buddy, Tuffy, other people. It's just things that, in that time frame from 70 to 79, not knowing. And then I reached 18, I read about her case, I read about how she was murdered, how she was found, and oh my God, that left nightmares in my head. It has affected me in my relationships. Because people tell me, "Cindy, move on." Even my family, not my son or my sister or brother, other family members, let it go, let it go. You're tearing yourself apart about all this. Well, I think I got a sane head, a sane mind. I've kept a career. I've raised my son, he's 29 years old. I have a disabled child, severely handicapped. She's 23. I've kept her alive, so I don't think I'm losing it. I just need answers. I want to know a little bit more about the last few days of her life.
Why? Yeah.
Why? Why not? How can you live with this? Approximately.
Have you been out there yourself?
I haven't. My brother has. My brother and his friend Rick. They both had driven out there and tried to estimate where off of French Camp onto Yetner, where her body would have been. 500 feet from French Camp Road.
So did they have access to the sheriff's report as well?
No, that was on the coroner's report.
Really?
Yes, I have a copy of it right here. Yeah.
They were that specific?
They were that specific, exactly where she was located. 500 feet, 200 feet, that's estimation of me thinking.
I'll be darned.
And it's by the Reyeses.
Right.
Yeah.
Sheriff's deputy.
I started there, I was 25 years old, yeah.
The sheriff's army deputy.
At Rough and Ready.
Okay.
Yeah, at the Navy base. And I was a supply clerk secretary for the communications building there at Rough and Ready. And I had been out there from like 85 to 88. Then I got a job at Sharp Army Depot in 88, December of 88. And there I had worked in transportation. And then later on I got another job as a comptroller. Paying the bills for the base at the time as a comptroller. And then I left there because we had gotten rifted. They was closing different bases throughout the valley, well, all throughout the United States. Rough and Ready had gotten closed like in 98, but I already had left there years before. We got closed in Department of Army side of Sharp Army Depot closed in 99. So all of us, so it was under DOD, Department of Army, was transferred over to Tracy Defense Depot. That was under DLA, under DOD, Department of Defense, but Department of Logistics. Well, that's too many. But, so I had been there since Tracy Defense since 99 as a transportation assistant and a comptroller. Admin clerk. But right now I'm a transportation assistant. I've been there since 99, since that job.
And then your daughter?
I had her in 89, June of 89.
Okay.
And
And she has her own story there.
yeah, she has her own. She's got, I had suffered what they call, she had suffered anoxic damage after birth. And prior to that, I had a precipitous labor with her. My pregnancy was normal, atypical normal pregnancy. But I had what they call a precipitous labor. That means that from onset to end is an hour, and that's it. She had suffered anoxic damage from after birth to 6 weeks old. Her APGAR scores were 9 and 10. But she had a high-pitched cry, like a very stridorous, high-pitched, squeaky cry. And what later on I found out that when she was born, because they were working on me because I was bleeding pretty profusely. The RN was on me, and the LVN was on the baby, trying to mucus out, trying to take out the mucus. And what happened by doing a stenosis, I had a doctor, vice attorney at the time, do a stenosis on what happened during that time frame, 24 hours there after Corey's birth. They went in with a bulb syringe, went in, let go, and when she squeezed in again, back of her airway, she grabbed her epiglottis, which is that thing that hangs in the back of your throat. As a newborn, you got to think about it now. That's very petite, very tiny thing. So when she was in there already, she let go, and she squeezed again. When she squeezed again, she pulled that epiglottis, so it made everything swell.
Oh, God.
So her whole airway internally was swelling, and what they call polyps, scar tissue, was starting to develop. So even in the nursery, there was signs that she wasn't able to breathe or suck. Not even from me trying to breastfeed her. That wasn't working. The Leach people came in and tried to teach me, tried to do this. But see, I already had done this before, prior with my 5-year-old at the time, when he was a child, baby. So that wasn't working. Even in the nursery, the nurses tried to feed her, and she would projectile vomit, it would drool out. Her cry again was high-pitched. She would scream, and she would turn cyanotic. That means she was turning colors because she wasn't getting the oxygenation.
Brain damage, huh?
Yeah, but not significantly yet. Even I had Kaiser
Well, it's still developing, but the damage has been done.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
But as it was processing, the inoxidation because of her airway being swelled up still up to 6 weeks. They sent her home. I had a tubal ligation right after her birth. So we were in the hospital three days at the time. I was home less than 24 hours, first ER visit, because she had turned blue. And I knew it wasn't normal. I tried to breastfeed her, and she was not, taking anything in, she'd drool it out. It was just kept drooling.
Yeah.
So, and then like I said, she would retract. Her little chest would retract.